On the morning of October 5, 2020, Forest Warden Elena Ramirez received what appeared to be a standard disturbance report at Evergreen State Preserve in Oregon. Campers had mentioned odd noises emanating from the isolated Shadow Valley region, metallic clanking sounds that clashed with the untouched backcountry. Elena, or Ellie as her colleagues knew her, had dealt with countless such alerts over her 9 years with the state forestry department. Most often, it turned out to be forgotten logging tools or backpackers ignoring noise regulations with portable speakers. But what Ellie didn't realize was that this wasn't the initial report of peculiar sounds from that precise spot. For other wardens had looked into comparable issues over the previous 6 years, and each had sought reassignment shortly after their inspections. Preserve archives, tucked away in bureaucratic storage, indicated a string of anomaly reports from Shadow Valley stretching back over a dozen years. Yet these events had never been linked or escalated for review. She contacted base at 10:32 a.m., affirming she was en route to check the report in Quadrant 9. It was the final communication from her. 4 days later, a rescue squad would uncover something that shattered reason and sparked one of the most perplexing vanishing cases in forestry agency records. 25 yards from where Ellie had been probing, hidden under a meticulously stacked mound of pine needles, her communicator was located, still emitting signals, but not in any normal fashion. The unit was relaying her own voice in a perpetual cycle, stating, "Situation normal, returning to station." A transmission she had never issued. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments below. I always enjoy discovering how these tales spread far and wide. What became of Elena Ramirez in those secluded Oregon woods? How did her communicator wind up so distant from her last confirmed position? And why was her voice being replayed long after she had evaporated without a trace? Elena Sofia Ramirez was the sort of individual who appeared born for the wilds. Raised in the quaint timber town of Willow Creek, Oregon, she had explored the same paths in her youth that she would eventually safeguard as a warden. Her folks, Sofia and Miguel Ramirez, ran a neighborhood adventure supply store named Timber Trail Essentials, and from childhood, Ellie exhibited an almost otherworldly knack for orienting herself in the forest. Loved ones portrayed her as bold yet cautious, someone who honored the woods without yielding to their dangers. Her college outdoor leadership mentor, Dr. Lisa Thornton, subsequently informed detectives that Ellie had an eerie talent for predicting storm shifts and wildlife movements that usually demanded lifetimes to hone. Following her degree in forestry management with a focus on crisis response from Oregon State University, Ellie promptly joined the state forestry department. She excelled in their elite Warden Academy at the Pacific Northwest Training Facility in Washington, finishing top of her cohort and receiving accolades for her tracking proficiency and crisis handling. She was posted to Evergreen State Preserve, a vast 300,000-acre expanse famed for its dense old-growth forests, erratic climate, and a troubling history of unexplained vanishings spanning generations. Her peers at Evergreen recalled Ellie as precise and committed, treating every alert with gravity, regardless of its apparent triviality. She was deeply invested in habitat preservation and had spearheaded multiple triumphant ecosystem restoration projects in the preserve, including a pioneering research on gray wolf packs that drew interest from experts across the continent. At 33, Ellie was regarded as one of the most seasoned wardens in the Pacific Northwest, boasting a flawless incident log and profound familiarity with Evergreen's harshest terrains. She had single-handedly saved 21 souls during her career, from novice trekkers to expert foragers ensnared by abrupt fog banks. She resided solo in a modest lodge on the preserve's fringe, a vintage one-story built in the 1950s by an early forestry chief. Locals saw her as approachable but reserved, favoring solitude in nature over crowded events. Her lifestyle was straightforward yet rewarding. She pursued wildlife sketching, advanced trail running, and tended a compact orchard where she cultivated fruits and spices using methods passed down from her abuelo. Those closest to her claimed Ellie shared a profound bond with the environment, an instinct for atmospheric changes and creature habits that had averted disasters repeatedly. She was recognized for her resonant whistle that carried through forest clearings, her array of retro trail maps from the 1960s, and her tendency to sing folk tunes softly during patrols. October 5th started routinely for Ellie Ramirez, but a thorough review of that dawn would later expose faint hints that anomalies were already stirring. She clocked in at the Evergreen Warden outpost at 7 a.m., a full hour ahead of schedule. Per habit, surveillance video depicts her routine, scanning climate forecasts, scanning prior shift notes, and gearing up for the day. Yet detectives later spotted an anomaly in the recordings. A gray SUV with darkened glass idling opposite the outpost for nearly 2 hours pre-arrival, its operator seemingly observing through scopes. The vehicle departed right as Ellie entered, and despite rigorous probes, authorities never pinpointed the SUV or its driver. Her overseer, led Warden Carlos Mendoza, later remembered Ellie appearing upbeat that morning, discussing her intent to monitor a herd of elk near the favored Misty Ridge path. She had lingered over topographic charts of the Shadow Valley zone, scrutinizing contour lines and spring locations with unusual focus using a loupe. She equipped her typical field kit: medical supplies, survival tent, filtration straws, satellite locator, handheld communicator, and her duty sidearm, a .45 caliber Sig Sauer she'd aced quals on 3 months prior. Conditions were prime. Overcast but mild, highs in the low 50s, no rain forecast till nightfall. At 8:45 a.m., Ellie fielded her initial task, a small matter of unauthorized fires at the South Bluff entry. She resolved it swiftly, educating the group and dousing the site in under 45 minutes. But the campers later shared with officers that Ellie appeared preoccupied, repeatedly scanning the underbrush as though anticipating company. The disturbance alert arrived at 10:11 a.m. via the preserve's central line. A band of weekend explorers claimed to hear factory-like echoes from Shadow Valley's direction, about 10 miles from paved access. They insisted the racket was artificial and voiced worries over habitat harm. However, when agents tried to follow up, the identities and contacts proved bogus. The line traced to a discarded prepaid cell, and no such group had checked in at any gate. It was a calculated hoax to draw Ellie there. Ellie consulted her charts, noting Shadow Valley as a no-entry sector, sealed for erosion risks and protected species zones. At 10:32 a.m., she signaled base. Unit 4 en route to disturbance, Shadow Valley vicinity, arrival in about an hour. Her tone was steady and routine, betraying no alarm. Unbeknownst, frequencies were being eavesdropped, with someone awaiting that exact broadcast. Reaching Shadow Valley meant navigating the twisting Cedar Pass lane to its end, then trekking roughly 4 miles through thick undergrowth to the valley's edge. Agency. Rules required solo field agents in outlying spots to report every 90 minutes or sooner if hazards arose. The route Ellie would have followed was signed but demanding, involving sharp ascents and fording 3 intermittent brooks prone to swelling in storms. Road cams on Cedar Pass caught Ellie's service truck at 11:05 a.m., proceeding normally without issues. Yet a cam 7 miles away on a side route filmed the same gray SUV from earlier, now trailing a convergent path toward Shadow Valley. When noon came and went sans update, base coordinator Mia Chin tried hailing her. Silence, no crackle suggesting a live but faint link. Chin retried quarterly per protocol, but nada. By 1:45 p.m., lead Warden Mendoza was alerted. Considering Ellie's stellar history and the call's mundanity, he first suspected tech glitches or drained power. But with persistent radio and phone fails, he dispatched a colleague to her coordinates. Warden Tara Voss, a 12-year pro with deep rescue creds, hit the Cedar Pass endpoint at 3 p.m. and instantly chilled. Ellie's truck sat properly parked, but the passenger door hung ajar, utterly unlike her. The rig was locked otherwise, her gear including her mobile secured inside, yet oversized muddy tracks marred the dash, mismatched to Ellie's size. Voss advanced toward Shadow Valley, shouting Ellie's name and scanning channels. The woods were unnaturally still, absent the reported clanks, and Voss later described a pervasive dread of surveillance as she delved deeper. With dusk looming, she retreated to report, but not sans a eerie find. Midway along the path, a makeshift sign of stones and twigs diverted from the main trail to a faint animal track into a thicket of firs. It was recent, erected that day, unseen on Voss's prior sweeps. Within moments of Ellie being flagged missing, Evergreen State Preserve launched its biggest hunt in years. Lead Warden Mendoza rallied the Oregon Rescue Coalition, County Sheriff's Office, and FBI wilderness experts. By sunrise October 6th, over 70 seekers gathered at Cedar Pass Base, comprising pro units, civilians, and scent hounds. The zone was gridded, teams outfitted with locators and radios scouring every conceivable trail Ellie might have veered onto. But glitches plagued the op from the start, unprecedented in past efforts. Aerial drones from the Oregon Guard used heat cams to probe the canopy, but gear faltered nearing Shadow Valley. NAV errors, signal jams, and comms static grounding flights. Hounds from Portland were scented with Ellie's items, yet at the trailhead, they grew erratic, failing to lock on despite ideal tracking weather. Worse, they balked at certain stretches, yelping and retreating from unseen threats. Foot crews combed gullies, cliffs, and outcrops in Shadow Valley, yielding no prints, trampled flora, or dropped gear signaling Ellie's path. The alleged noises had vanished. Crews verified no sanctioned machinery within 60 miles. Day 2 broadened to flanking wilds and alternate entries, positing Ellie diverted in crisis. Local bushcraft pros lent skills, bushwhacking into hidden spots. They unearthed a spooky clue in the valley's depths, a sly hideout of branches and tarps, discarded wrappers, and a vantage point overlooking key routes. Abandoned fresh, likely post-search start, its maker showed elite survival chops and terrain mastery. As months dragged, the fervent quest for Ellie Ramirez tapered, though FBI's missing persons branch kept it live. Profilers brainstormed scenarios from mishap in seclusion to snatch by a premeditated actor with local savvy. Interviews with recent contacts sought motives, personal woes, affairs, work beefs. Zip, but an overlooked trend emerged. 9 other forestry staff statewide had sensed tales or shadows pre-vanishing, 5 logging official gripes about lurkers filming duties. FBI probed if ranger ops were scoped systematically, perhaps cherry-picking marks. Ellie's finances were clean, bonds solid. Co-workers lauded her contentment. The phony reporters were traced via towers and cams, showing the call originated 40 miles off claimed spot, with audio masking. Agency rolled out safeguards, compulsory satellite beacons for lone shifts, tighter check-ins for far-flung tasks, and pairs for risky probes. Ellie's kin, Sophia and Miguel, crusade relentlessly, rallying volunteers and social feeds to spotlight her. They engaged ex-DEA sleuth Marcus Hale, who zeroed on overlooked tech angles. Hale uncovered months of frequency spying pre-event, via stealth gear snagging chatter undetected. The saga drew crime buffs nationwide, spawning tips galore. One from a retired signals op flagged the eavesdropping prowess, hinting intel or agency background. On a brisk afternoon in November 2023, over 3 years post Elena Ramirez's vanishing, emeritus botanist Professor Harlan Voss, no kin to Warden Voss, was running an off-books flora census in Evergreen's secluded Misty Grove sector. Voss, a veteran scholar with 35 field years, had clearance for specimen gathering on regional botany. Solo in a zone 25 yards from Ellie's last ping, reachable only via rugged off-road, at around 1:45 p.m., while documenting a rare fern by a dry wash, he spied an oddity under piled needles. Man-made, its olive casing stark against earth tones. Clearing debris, Voss ID'd a forestry communicator, encased and operational. But the audio iced him, a female voice looping, situation normal, returning to station. Pristine like fresh cut. Voss knew foul play. It aired on emergency band, impossible for stock units. He sat-phoned HQ, team swarmed by Eve. Serial matched Ellie's. But state, spot, and tweak stunned. Pristine despite seasons, hidden deliberately, needles too orderly, soil showing recent shift, maybe weeks old. It had beamed non-stop since planting, power-defying norms. Labs found mods, solar rig and branches above, making it eternal. Logs by Intel whizzes showed sub-audio data bursts, coded perhaps. Voice was Ellie's, spliced from prior calls, edited seamless. Chilling, upkeep over years, site visits tweaking for weather. Cams and stakeouts ensued, but perps foresaw, soil-pegged monthly hits on moonless nights, dodging overhead eyes. The 25-yard gap, Nick's drop theory. Someone seized it, stashed years, planted for timed find. Profile, insider with op know-how, maybe agency tied. Probes eyed all search players, wardens, helpers, kin, breeding distrust, spurring exits. Investigator Captain Jordan Klein of Oregon State Police helmed the revival, a 25-year vet in enigmas and cybercrimes, seeing premeditated grab with tech flair. Task Force, FBI minds, signals pros, cleared forestry detectives, digital forensics. Theory 1, Ellie hid illicit ops in sealed zone, smuggling, poaching, or covert gov work. Noises? Gear hum. But seismic scans from Oregon Tech found no digs, toxins, or hides. Theory 2, eco-radicals or anti-Fed militants, amid land disputes. Probes into fringes found no hits on Evergreen, but regional Fed site watches. Prime hunch, internal or allied actor. Expertise screamed access, patterns, protocols, mods. This sparked lie detectors, deep dives on associates, unearthing hidden pasts. As Elena Ramirez's case hits year 7, it's open. Labs in Virginia house the communicator, signals partly cracked to hints of sites, times. Tech yields, traces of cavern minerals, cueing mine hunts, fruitless. Solar bits. Mil-spec only, bolstering agency link. Toll on loved ones, brutal. Sophia and Miguel, 70s now, push laws for interagency sync, family aid, Fed worker probes. Agency reforms, beacons mandatory. Ironclad comms, insider psych evals. Evergreen wears the wound, staff churn visits down. Shadow Valley sealed, though trespassers prompt patrols. Retired lead Mendoza in Idaho, opines murder by op-savvy insider, but proofs elusive sands break. Case fuels media. Films, tomes, casts, webs, making Ellie emblem of wilderness lost, questioning remote worker safety. Her tale warns, even linked today, orchestrated erasures persist by resourced, patient hands. What befell Elena Ramirez? Plan snatched by long-term watcher? Or fatal find guarded fiercely? The rigged communicator, voicing her post-years, screams elite prep beyond street crime. Colleague with gear access? Or Fed op using preserve covertly? Bogus alert luring her, area spy tech, 25-yard gap, all scream resources, intel. Ongoing codes hint broader net, crimes or ops unfolding. Share theories below. Alive captive? Or silence for seeing too much? Like sub for more unsolved dives. Truth often eclipses fiction in terror.